In this episode of One Mug, One Journey, we're back in the Maker Lab, this time going over the glazing process.
And then after that, we're going to put our mugs into a furnace. So, shall we get started?
Mick started off by telling us about the type of paint that we will be using and shows us how the colours will turn out after they've been fired. Here he is mixing the paint and he explains that the paint needs to be smooth and not clumpy for it to work. You can see him mixing his paint with a paintbrush, trying to make sure that all the clumps of paint are all smoothed out. Mick explains how we should be applying the paint to our mug, demonstrating what the best technique is for painting it. After this, me and Owen looked at the colours that we had available and picked which one was best suited for our mugs. Owen and I were brushing off the little bits of clay to make the surface of the mugs smoother and easier for the paint to be applied. After this, we wiped down the mugs with a damp cloth. This was to make sure that the surface was a little bit easier for the paint to grip, although if the cloth is too wet it can make the clay soften and fall apart. Mick got me and Owen to transfer our paint into little pots because the paint that was in the original pot was too thick and clumpy. We added a little bit of water to the paint that was inside these little pots and kept stirring it until it resembled thick cream. Then we began painting the mugs, making sure that we do a few coats of paint to ensure that we get the right colour. Mick's advice was 2 to 3 coats of paint to bring out the colour that we wanted. Mick said that the colours can be unpredictable and not always as shown on paper. In this case, you can experiment and explore with the opportunities in this makerspace with painting any models you make and seeing what the results may be. Making sure the colour is everywhere, we then painted the top parts and did another coat. Mick told us not to paint the bottom or get paint on the edges of the bottom either. This is to make sure that the mugs don't stick to the base of the kiln when they are being fired. I decided to try and mix some colours together to try and create some shading on my mug in the areas where the mug had folded in. The colours that I am mixing are both blue, but before being fired, some paints do look completely different to how they would come out.
Overall, I really enjoyed this process. For me, this was a lot more relaxing and a lot easier to do than the actual modelling, working with the clay, that kind of thing. I really enjoyed just sort of sitting there and painting the mug, getting it looking great, and I was really impressed with the kind of results we got with this. After this, it was then time for the firing process where we put them into this machine here and it gave the mugs that clear, like ceramic look. And it made the mugs look professional. They looked great and we were able to pick them up about a week later.
So that was a little bit of an intro into what you can do in this Maker Lab.
And in the next episode, we're going to be going over to the animation department and making this mug move. We're also going to be having an interview with an animation student to find out more about the course.
So, see you next time.